ぜ光るネットの波をくぐって時間なんて気にしない気分は最高だけどびっくり世界がどんどんねじれてくなんだけでっかい悪さの予感飛び出そうぜ駆け出そうぜ今すぐ行くぜ目が来るぜ目が退屈と合わさらばさ見ろよ目が決めるぜ目が体が勝手に動き出すんだ100万倍の好奇心俺たち目が電磁戦隊メガレンジャー
Alright, today we'll be looking at two shows that are technically the same show that transcended nationality to become cultural icons in both and around the world. That being Super Sentai and its American equivalent, Power Rangers. Now, Super Sentai is a Toei-made superhero show that has been beating monsters for over 50 years. And you thought The Simpsons were getting old. Sadly, it looks like after its long run, it might actually be over for the series, or at least the IP. So I thought, why not look back on one of the series' seasons and compare it to what it helped inspire in people, like its American bootleg version, which just happened to become wildly insanely successful on its own, and maybe take a look at why people were so attached to both of these series to make them last so long. Funnily enough, the original Power Rangers wasn't the first time someone tried to adapt the series for a Western audience. Stan the Man Lee, head of Marvel at the time, tried doing it years before the original Power Rangers, planning to use the Jetman season as Toei was even working with Marvel as far back as their second season, before it was even called Super Sentai. They even got a licensed Marvel character, that being Miss America, to be part of that season. But fun trivia aside, we will be looking at specific seasons for both shows. As of the poll you guys voted on, we will be looking at the Denjai Sentai Mega Rangers and its American equivalent, Power Rangers in Space. Now, usually you flip a coin on how far the series and seasons differ from the transition. Some seasons of Power Rangers follow the Super Sentai closely with minor alterations, like say Time Force, which just left out certain things like the Blue Ranger dying or the Yellow Ranger having zero pullout game. Then there are other seasons that are just blatant copies like Samurai. Others take a drastically different approach like the first Mighty Morphin Power Rangers did. In that one Super Sentai season, Zeo Rangers, the heroes weren't just teenagers with attitude kidnapped by an alien to fight a witch from space, but actually frozen warriors from the time of the dinosaurs, and the Megazords, which were their fighting robots, were actually literal gods. Like the kind that turn people into rats if they fail them kind of gods. They did that in an episode, I'm not joking, look it up. Now, in Power Rangers in Space, it's actually one of those drastically different seasons. The Sentai Mega Rangers actually had the most in common with the Mighty Morphin season, as they were also teenagers in high school that basically got drafted to fight aliens. But by the time Power Rangers in Space came around, Power Rangers itself looked like it was about at the end of its rope. After Turbo flopped, the show was scheduled for cancellation, and for that reason the team behind it wanted it to go out with a big bang, and didn't really like the goofier fights or foot soldiers from Mega Rangers. So they just rid most of the fights and added in new foot soldiers, with completely original fight scenes. It also tried to tie up as many plot threads as the series had, and was considered the end of the Zordon era in Power Rangers. As this season was so well received, it wound up saving Power Rangers as a whole. With that, Power Rangers kinda comes in on an unfair advantage, as Super Sentai had been structured to be standoff seasons since the beginning. But Power Rangers had been a continuation series, with the older team adopting the new powers or handing them off to the next ones in line. They really used that to their advantage, using older Rangers from previous seasons to help along with the stories. Like Adam, who uses his broken morpher from the original Mighty Morphin series in a fight he knows he can't win, and thus helps to inspire the new Black Space Ranger, Carlos, who after messing up in a fight considers quitting, thinking he's just not cut out for this job, and of course gets Adam to help him back on his feet. Or True Blue to the rescue, where the Blue Turbo Ranger sets out to help save the captured Turbo Zords from last season, along with his old team. And that was all of the team-ups this series. Nothing else happened, there were nothing else, we do not talk about that one, it does not exist. Moving on. Now, not everything was completely original, they still copied certain plots from certain episodes with slight differences. For instance, both Blue Rangers suffer head injuries and come up with a plan to paint their suits blue in order to fight and beat their evil doubles, the Psycho Rangers or Nejai Rangers. Nejai Rangers? FYI, I'm probably going to be butchering a lot of these Japanese pronunciations. There's also an episode where a little girl discovers one of the Rangers' secret identities and blackmails them with it. Although in the Sentai it was the Red Ranger and it was the Black in Power Rangers in Space. As in Space, the Red Ranger didn't actually have a secret identity due to him being an alien. All those episodes are fine, but one is still copying the other, and you can kinda tell. I'll get more into that later. I'm not going to go episode by episode, of course, but let's look at their beginnings and overarching story arcs to see what makes each series unique. Power Rangers opens up following the end of the last season, Turbo, with the Rangers actually lost, losing their base, powers, basically everything. They were last seen going into space chasing after their enemies in search of Zordon. Again, early on making use of that continuous storyline. And while that's going down, all the villains from the previous seasons are gathered at the orders of one Dark Spectre, a reused suit from Turbo that the show even points out, who just conquered Eltar, Zordon's home, along with capturing the man himself. If you're new to Power Rangers, Zordon's basically the guy that started this whole thing, as he was the one to originally give the Power Rangers their powers. This season would also introduce Dark Spectre's disciple Astronema, the new villain of this season. They plan on launching a crusade to take over the galaxy, along all the main villains we've seen in the series so far. The party gets crashed by the newest Red Ranger, Andros, as he is driven off with the bad guys in hot pursuit. The Turbo Rangers land on his ship with the shuttle that they took. When Andros gets back there, he is surprised to see more people on it and immediately attacks them. And something that has always kind of bugged me is that their shuttle was made by the United States government, and they never really explained why the government knew how to make a shuttle that would fuse with Andros' spaceship to form a new Megazord, because Andros himself seemed surprised that this was able to do that. I have watched this season 3 times, and it was never explained why that was. Alpha says Zordon wanted them to be a team either, so I'm not just pulling that out of thin air, but how did he plan on all these very specific things happening all at the same time? Because he wasn't actually in Turbo for most of the season, or at least the ending. So it's not like he personally told them, hey, you gotta get into space. All that happened out of the blue. But back to the show. Andros is initially cold and distant to the new guys, and plans to fight alone after sending them home on their shuttle. Understandable, as we later learn that his old team fell in battle. Except for one that is actually on life support in the ship, but we'll get to him later. As well as before that, his sister was kidnapped at a very young age. So he is being distant for more of a self-defense mechanism than outright idiocy or arrogance. But after another attack and a pep talk by Alpha, he returns to them and gives them his old team's morphers. Thus, the Space Rangers were born. Andros in red, TJ in blue, Carlos in black, Ashley in yellow, and Cassie in pink.
Power Rangers!
Yeah! Cool blue, and the Power Rangers are back!
This is awesome!
Red, blue,
Yellow, pink,
black!
Now, over in Mega Rangers, we actually open up with the most 90s guy in Japan bullying some kids at an arcade. Oh, right, so an arcade is where your grandparents went to play video games. Yeah, a lot of stuff in this show in particular kind of got dated a little bit. Space gets by a little bit because it's technically set in space and the technology can look a little bit weird. And they also have space uniforms most of the time, so it's not really showing a lot of the older fashions of the 90s or 80s, kind of like Japan was. But back to Mega Rangers. The bully is put in his place by Kenta on a fighting game that looks awfully familiar called Mega Rangers.
Oh, that's why they call it that.
Later, some men in suits walk up to him and make him an offer, to which he says if they buy him lunch, he will hear them out. And off they go to their base just like that. While eating, the Professor Kobata tells him that the game he was playing was actually a test to find an applicant to be a real Mega Ranger, which Kenta really couldn't care less about and just wanted to eat. While that's going down, 4 other students, Koichiro, who would become the Black Mega Ranger, Shun, the Blue Ranger, Chisato, the Yellow, and Miyuki, the Pink, were investigating the site and run into Kenta, who went to the same school as them. Just then, they are attacked by the kingdom of Nigeria, led by Dr. Heinler, with his creations Ugande and Shibolian. In a rush, he gives the students the morphers as they make an escape to their moon base. After the victory, the kids assume the battle is won and try to hand in their morphers, except for Red, who asks if he can use it to ace a test, because his suit makes him super smart. And of course, that's not where it ends. The bad guys are still there and still plan to conquer the Earth, so they're now stuck there, and the kids have to learn that their job isn't over yet. That's how each opens up, and you get a good sense of the stakes and what the shows will be like. I do like the arcs or specific episodes in Space Rangers a little more, as they do tend to have higher stakes for personal Rangers. Like Andros, who enters in with a lot of mystery as he has been a Ranger in space for a very long time, and we don't really know that lot about him. He's very much an unknown. The biggest story plots actually revolve around him looking for his sister and reviving his best friend, as well as just trying to save Zordon, who's been captured by the bad guys who are setting up an invasion of the galaxy. Other episodes just hit harder, like the return of Adam and the team up with the Blue Turbo Ranger to save their old Zords, really taking advantage of past seasons, making the season feel a lot bigger than the normal ones do. Some of the characters just have cooler backstories as well, like the Silver Rangers. In Mega Rangers, the scientist Yuzaku, I think that's how you pronounce that, was a member of the team who were behind making their Zords and the suits, but wanted to do more than just watch. He acts like a caring adult who tries to look out for the kids and being a role model while being a little goofy, but the fun kind of Uncle Goofy. Not bad at all, but the Silver Ranger in space, Zane, was already a hero, saving Andros by taking a hit for him, landing him in the cryopod, and his awakening was built up for a couple of episodes, where it was kept a mystery as to why Andros had a Ranger just frozen in ice in a secret part of the ship. Again, really using that mystery element to both Andros. His dynamic with Andros is also great, and you see why they were best friends, as sometimes he's just a straight up prick, but Andros always lets it slide. It's true peak male friendship. And again, this is also going to Andros because he's generally more comfortable around Zane than most people, where he was kind of distant and aloof and didn't know really what was going on Earth. He really feels more relaxed around Zane because they were from the same planet. Zane even gets a romance subplot with the main villain, who just also happens to be Andros' sister. Yeah, you see, the Silver Ranger just has a lot more going on all around here. Now, not everything works, and a lot of it is the things that they brought over from the Super Sentai series. For example, some characters will have their traits that just come and go, like when the Yellow and Pink Rangers got into a fight over one being a slob, then afterwards, this never happens again, or before for that matter. Now, this same kind of plot happens in Mega Rangers too, but it wasn't a one-off thing. Being a mess was actually a core trait of the Pink Ranger, and part of her development. She's even connected a lot with Kenta, the Red Mega Ranger, because they matched each other so well. They're both kind of slobs and they both like to eat. The bigger difference, though, is Pink is a little bit more self-conscious about it, whereas Kenta just straight up does not care. The whole argument between Yellow and Pink in the Mega Rangers was again due to Pink's insecurities, as when the Blue Ranger Shun asked the Yellow Ranger one to help with a project, Yuki reads this as the two going on a date, and even when Yellow explains, she still feels inadequate because her crush Shun didn't ask her, and her best friend said she couldn't have helped if he did ask her. When they get ambushed by the evil doppelganger, Blue and Yellow go to Pink's defense, which gets them hurt, leading Pink to push them away, saying that she could do this herself, and try to take them on one-on-one, which doesn't go well. And a lot of episodes with the Pink Ranger focuses on her insecurities like that, and that forms an arc or narrative for her, something the Power Rangers outside of Andros don't really have. And this is the biggest one, the secret identities plotline that both shows have. Remember how I said Carlos once got blackmailed by a kid to protect a secret identity? And how that was copied from an episode of Mega Rangers? Well, it made sense in Mega Rangers because their identities were actually secret, and didn't in Space Rangers because they really weren't. The bad guys have known since Mighty Morphin who the heroes were, and have actually interacted with them outside of the suits. But that never really became a factor in the show for some reason. Heck, Astronema even disguised herself as Ashley at one point. They were definitely aware of who the Rangers were. And this is true in some Sentais too, but their identities are usually not something being hidden. And in some cases, they really want them to know who they are, especially in the ones where they're cops. In this Sentai in particular, it's a big deal. Because again, remember, these are kids. And as soon as the bad guys find out who they actually are, they go after them in their schools, hurting their teachers, and blowing up their homes, presumably with their families in them. Luckily they got them out in time, but still, they actually went after their home lives. That is not something you ever see in Power Rangers, or at least not in this season or the ones leading up to it, which is always kind of weird when you kind of look at these two side by side and realize, the villains know who they are, and they've never attacked them outside their homes before. They've always done this weird thing where they send monsters to come and distract them, and then let the fight come to them. It's kind of weird. And actually, one of the things Super Sentai really does better than Power Rangers, especially in this season's around this time, is the team dynamics. They don't have as many fillerish feeling episodes as most do connect to a theme and don't tend to forget important details like, their secret identities being secret. The main theme for this season of Mega Rangers was growing into responsibility. Again, remember, all these Rangers are kids, and I guess so are the Space Rangers, but like the identities thing, it doesn't really matter. In Mega Rangers, it is the whole point. Heck, these kids wanted to turn in their morphers day one and all think about quitting throughout the series. All for their own reasons, like not being good enough after making a mistake, chasing their own passions, feeling self-conscious about how they look, or just feeling inadequate. It's also nice to see characters with such different personalities conflict with each other. Most of the Space Rangers kind of blur together into that every action hero genre type. They're all gung-ho, brave, superheroes. There's not many differences between them, which is why when you have episodes like one being a slob and one a neat freak, kind of sticks out because then you notice that never comes up again. And again, I didn't even notice this until after I watched Mega Rangers and noticed how often they come back to those things. Again, take Kenta, who is often carefree and lazy. This often leads him to clash with Koichiro, who is actually the leader of the team technically, because he is more diligent and organized than Kenta, obviously. Where Kenta kind of fills that spot of the heart of the five-man band group, if you know what that is. Shun is often the cooler and more collected, and seems to get along with everyone, but also kind of being distant at the same time. This is probably why Miyuki even has a crush on him. You can put any of them into a pairing and get an interesting interaction, but not so much with the Power Rangers, and when they try to copy this team characteristics, it just feels a little bit forced. But the heroes are only half the story here, and the villains are what people really seem to enjoy about these two seasons. Let's start with the ones that are the most similar. Uganda and Guriel, known as Ecliptor and Darkonda in Power Rangers. Ecliptor and Uganda are the second in command of their main boss, which they see as family members. Ecliptor sees Astronema as a daughter figure, having watched over her since she was a child after she was kidnapped. His last actions of the series even was trying to shield her from harm, and that was also after having his entire personality scrambled by the villains. Uganda views Dr. Heinler as a father figure, as he is literally his creator, and has a sibling relationship with the other creations. He would even defend him from the Nejai Rangers when he knew he had no chance against him. And even more dangerous, trusting Guriel, who instantly stabbed him in the back just to fuse with him being in control of the fusion. Guriel and Darkonda are this season's Starscreams. If they had a chance to stab you in the back, they will take it. They backstab Uganda and Ecliptor to fuse with him, but when they started to lose, turned them into a human shield. Total dirtbag. Guriel, unfortunately though, dies in the middle of the season, as Heinler took said betrayal of Uganda personally and poisoned him for it. Heinler then used what was left to make the Nejai Rangers. Nejai Rangers? Nezi Rangers? I am definitely mispronouncing that. Darkonda, though, managed to survive to almost the end, mostly thanks to his extra lives, something he literally has, and something the other version wishes he had. And this guy got away with everything the other guy did, and then some. Anytime there is some kind of traitorous plot, this guy is behind it. He was even behind the plot of poisoning the people from KO-35, Andros and Zane's home planet, into coral, which, yes, is a thing that happens in this series. Darkonda also has a much more lasting rivalry with Ecliptor, with the Ecliptor constantly foiling his schemes, sometimes by complete accident. They also have 4 more clashes between the two than Mega Rangers do, and a lot of the fights are actually really good. I really want to give this season of Power Rangers props for fights like these, between two of arguably the best characters in the entire franchise. He betrayed Astronema and Ecliptor to Dark Spectre and turned both of them against their own friends, unwillingly. Though that decision kinda came back to bite him, as evil people tend to like to backstab people, something Darkonda hilariously didn't see coming. He wiggles free of that situation though, and then he tries to take out the big guy Dark Spectre himself, almost succeeding. Before he lost his last life to Space Satan in a mutual destruction. But man, what a way to go. And then of course there's the Nejai Rangers and the Psycho Rangers. Entire set of evil rangers that utterly trounce the originals. The recreation was a little different, but the purpose is the same. To drain the power from the evil overlords, Dark Spectre in Power Rangers, and King Jarvis in Mega Rangers. They are actually powerful enough to kill the Rangers in their first meeting, but the main villains keep pulling them out just to sabotage their boss. This lets the Rangers regroup and come up with plans to confuse and beat them, as in a straight up fight, they know they're not going to win. They do return in another episode after all 5 are defeated, and derails the villains' plans just to try to kill the Rangers themselves, as that's the one thing they actually seem to care about. Both teams get turned into cards by the end of that episode. And that's where it ends for the Nejai Rangers. The Psycho Rangers, on the other hand, came back for round 3 against the Galaxy Rangers in the very next season after In Space. And to date, one of these Psycho Rangers are the only monster to get a confirmed kill on a Power Ranger, as they would actually wind up killing the pink Lost Galaxy Ranger. Yeah, this season's Power Rangers really knew how not to waste a villain. Now, Dark Spectre and King Jarvis are the technical evil overlords behind the invasions and crusades of Earth and the galaxy at large. But they actually do very little in the show. Jarvis is king of his own dimension, and actually gets taken out early on, kinda like Uriel did, as when Heinler's evil rangers bite the dust, so does he. And this kinda collapses his entire dimension along with it, except for his heart, which Heinler actually steals to use for his own city. Whereas Dark Spectre is left weak after Astronoma's betrayal with the Psycho Rangers and is almost taken out by Darkonda, but as a last FU takes him down with him. Now, the real main villain of the series are Heinler and Astronema. And let's actually start with Heinler here. Before he became the evil Mad Doctor, he was Dr. Semigia, who worked for INET, the group that made the Zords and the Power Rangers, alongside Professor Kubata, the guy who assembled the Rangers. He actually helped make the power suits alongside Kubata for combating invaders from space. Unfortunately, during the test run of the prototype, his beloved daughter actually died wearing the suit. The same accident left him scarred and destroyed his reputation. Following that, he discovered a strange twisted dimension, which was called Nigeria, and obsessively worked on a way to cross into it. Though Kubata pleaded for him to wait, he just went ahead and decided, nah, let's jump into an evil space dimension that I know nothing about. And then he kinda popped out as Dr. Heinler, after years of believing that he was dead. The thing you see about this guy right away is that, yes, he is evil, but he does have people he cherishes, like his creations, who he generally seems to actually love, like they were his own kids. He betrays Guriel after he stabs Ugande in the back, and even rebuilds him after the whole incident. And when his creations are finally defeated at the very end of the series, it really sends him over the deep end. That in no way makes him a good guy, though. After killing Jarvis and destroying his dimension, he literally steals his heart for his own city. There, he plans to turn people into data cards and reprogram them to be what he considers perfect. So again, he already destroyed one dimension, and he's going to literally reprogram this one. This guy has pretty big ambitions, I'll give him that. He even managed to capture the Rangers, and we're about to turn them into his own version of Evil Rangers, when the old set of Evil Rangers he created decided to come back and free them after kicking the crap out of him and Ugande just to kill the old set of Rangers themselves. Again, when that plan goes bust, he loses his surrogate kids and learns their true identities, and that's where it really starts to get serious. He goes after their families, like I said, and loses whatever was left of his humanity, literally turning into a monster. In the last battle, he would hit the self-destruct button on his own base to take out the Rangers and their city. Man literally said, if I'm going down, I'm taking y'all with me. Luckily though, they were able to get him out of the city just in time. In Power Rangers, Astronema was the main villain. She was also, like I said, the sister of Andros, kidnapped by Darkonda for Dark Spectre's army, and raised by Ecliptor. Kid didn't really stand a chance. When she first enters the picture, she is a bit of a brat and full of herself. Always concerned with her looks, consistently changing her hairstyles, and her acting is over the top, but not really in a fun way. Heinler's acting is also a little bit over the top, but it never really bothered me with him for some reason, and that may just be because he is so very much expressive with a much more outlandish design. Where her, it seems like somebody's cosplaying as one of those characters from Power Rangers and trying to act evil. However, when she isn't trying to be the evil overlord, like with Zane and the others Rangers after she finds out the truth, she is noticeably different in about every aspect, including her acting, where she seems a lot more relaxed. That change also happens right in the middle of the season and goes sideways real fast, as after she originally attempts to try to help them free Zordon, it actually turns out to be a trap set up by who else? She is given the option to stay evil and kill the Rangers, which she clearly doesn't do, and tries to help them escape, with Ecliptor buying them the time they need to get away, sacrificing himself. And later, when Astronema tries to sneak back onto the base and help the Rangers yet again, she is captured by the now mind-controlled Ecliptor. She is then given an implant to make her evil, but this was really a big mistake, as she's not technically mind-controlled evil, she's literally turned evil. And evil plus loyalty don't exactly mix. There is no more being a brat from this point on, it's all business now. She makes the Psycho Rangers to take out the Rangers and Dark Spectre, and after Dark Spectre and Darkonda take each other out, she is in charge of the whole crusade, and she goes full steam ahead with that. And just like that, the war kicks off. All the villains from the previous seasons are seen attacking the allies of the Power Rangers from the previous seasons, such as the Alien Rangers from Mighty Morphin, the Gold Ranger from Zeo, and the Phantom Ranger from Turbo, all being attacked and curb-stomped by an entire army of minions, all at the behest of Astronema. And she chooses to be the one to hit Earth, and really succeeding in it, giving the Rangers the option to surrender or watch the people get exploded. Oddly enough, it wasn't the Rangers that stopped her, but the average citizens that stepped up to protect the Rangers, led by the series' comedic duo Bulk and Skull. Now, 5 of the Rangers, minus Andros, show up as they are being attacked, and the people decide to get in on it as well, standing and fighting alongside the Rangers for once in the series. Now, the only one who isn't there was Andros, who made one last-ditch attempt to save his sister and Zordon, who was being held on their ship. He can't bring himself to fight his sister, and Zordon tells Andros to break his tube, which will release his energy and stop the forces of evil, but also kill Zordon in the process, which Andros understandably doesn't want to do, but reluctantly does, and the figure who started this journey with 5 teenagers with attitude made the ultimate sacrifice, and all the villains were either destroyed or turned into humans for some reason. And except for all the other evil that came after this, but remember, this was supposed to be the last season. So they really weren't thinking that far ahead. Astronomo returns to being Corone, and the season ends there. That's not where her story ends though, as Corone does return in Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. After the Psycho Rangers returned and took out their Pink Ranger, she would actually take her place, looking to atone for her evil past. She even battles her old self. So yeah, we kinda got a 2-season redemption arc for a villain of Power Rangers. Both the villains have layers to them. Also a little poetic that Heinler was a good man that even worked to create the Mega Rangers, while Corone, who also experienced tragedy at a younger age, then raised to be evil, and also tried to destroy the Rangers, would later turn out to be one of their greatest allies. The endings are also a pretty good indication of what I've been talking about, and that's the series' stakes. Heinler isn't really trying to take over the world in the last episode anymore. That was kind of ruined when his Heinler city blew up. He is just doing this strictly to hurt the Rangers at this point. It's pure revenge. He's not trying to take over the world, he just wants them dead. While Corone, on the other hand, isn't really doing this of her own free will. There is no personal beef there. This is all mind control, but the stakes are incredibly high as they are launching an invasion of the entire galaxy. That's what you're going to get out of the series. Bigger spectacle or more of a personal touch. One's going to feel a lot more personal while the other one is going to feel really grand. It's a send-off. While the other one is, again, just a nice lesson. And those are the parts of the seasons that I thought to cover. I didn't cover half the material here, trust me, I went through like 3 renditions, and almost all the other ones took over an hour. Looking back on the shows years later, I can see the corniest of it all, but they are the good kind of corny. These shows are about spandex-laden superheroes fighting rubber monsters and giant robots. You get what's on the label here. For what they are pretty good. If you're a longtime fan of, or a newcomer to tokusatsu, these are great starting points. With that, what was your favorite moment from the seasons? Or which was your favorite season out of the shows in general? What do you wish I had talked about more, and what do you want me to talk about later? Until that next time, I'll be here. See ya.